Okay, that I am going to try to deal with it a little bit today. 2 weeks ago, I said that we'll speak a little bit about the subject of pets and muksa. But I'm just going to give a little bit of a explanation of what's going on. The subject starts with the basis in Shabbos and Yom Tov. And the Gemara says, there's a Efrayach Meis, the Pirish and Yosef. The Lord not got a Efrayach Chai. We didn't speak about a live Efrayach. Yishum Dechai, Chazi Lasaki Boy Kinuch, Tishabaycha. You could use a chick as a toy for a child who is crying. I'm recording these things. Okay.
Giving chicken to a child, a live chicken.
You don't have to want it.
Not at all.
Yeah. And that's what they used to do. The Einir says Taisus, I disagree. The heart, you say the Kaifan Salaf Neafrechim, Mashma, the also a talto. You're not allowed to move a chick. Okay? Well, odd, even Chaim Sharia, my Kama, Besarach, Balachim Shemesu Asur, was Mutter when it was alive. Why did it change when it becomes dead? Elavadet Balachim Muksim Haim, the Muksa, the Gregorus Utsmukin, or Muksim Oisam Gam Miliklavin. But like Dam Milabasa, Kafo Shemutter of Shimon, the Chulu, and everybody says that all of these animals are Muks. That's what it says in places. Now,
what kind of books is it?
we're going to see in a minute. Okay, that's what it says in Tosfos. The subject is that there's a tshuva in the Rav Zachariash, which is really written to the Rosh. Val oifus lo molani lidi lahater, de'ein lilmoid heter shimush balechaim meheter keler. You can't say, just like you can use a kli, you can use animal. But after kli shemalachta is itself proof for itself mukan mutter. Our truras b'chotzer afilo tzarich lehem takol osir l'talta mishum de'ein teres ki alem. V'hachi nami mebalei chayim yesh le'eser yoser balei chayim de'ein mishtamshim mebalei chayim. You cannot use them. V'lo yikrovu abonim bebalei chayim. Okay, this is a rush from the rush. Now, so he says, we make a low clue on all animals that they're mooks. There are two different subjects to use, but they do have possible understandings of this subject. In Shin Ches, where it speaks about muksa, and it says that all animals are muksa, there's also another halacha, which is a fascinating halacha, which needs to be explained. Also, Litzchok b'Shabbos v'Yom Tov v'Kadmur. You're not allowed to play with a ball. Well, we're talking about. The Ramah says, Yesh matirim v'Nogulam. So why is it also? Beinu shel lior, beinu shel eitz. Ke'ein shem kli alav. It doesn't have a shem kli. I'm not going to translate that into English. But it doesn't fit into a box. We'll discuss the boxes in a minute. A ball is nothing. There is a fascinating idea which I say over all the time. It doesn't look like that.
Is it like this part?
I have a plug for it.
I can't go on that.
I'll just share with you the Beis Yosef in the beginning of the Hilchos Yom Tov, so we can pass. has 7 or 8 classifications of things that make something not muksa. And from the things which I find amazing, he has 2 classifications which and why you have to have 2. One is Matul Ono, and the other one is Matul Behemoth. Both are not muksa. That's Caleb, and has a whole bunch of things. But if you're not one of these items, then you're nothing. And you're muksa.
But the default is muksa?
The default is muksa. The default is muksa, and you have to be a something to be not.
I thought, well, you could like, if before Shabbos you decide to set aside the stone as a door stopper, then it ceases becoming muksa, right? It becomes
Right.
mutter. So,
No, you know. You almost said the right thing. It becomes a doorstop.
right. So,
It doesn't become a doorstop.
so you use it for that.
So you made it into a cleat.
So if you set aside the ball to play with,
But it has to be, this is an important subject. I'm going to say this, I heard from Moshe Shapiro the first time. There is no word for fun in Mashal Kodesh.
It says this Tinok L'Sachek.
But there's no word for fun. And everything has to have
Shashua.
Kef is Arabic.
they're
Yes.
He said
Shashua.
Shua does not mean fun,
It's amusement.
enjoyment.
right? And it's talking about like Yela Shashua, right? Now, this is a Nakuda. Everything has to have it has to belong to a certain tree, has to belong to a certain something. And if it doesn't belong to something, then it's muksa. That's one subject. Now I'm going to share with you another idea.
Then the muksa itself has categories. Matzah and case, matzah.
But as long as that has to do with what we're talking about right now. That's different subject than muksa. We're talking about things that people use. Where do they fit into? Not what other kinds of muksas there are. There's muksa machbasmiyas also. There's all different kinds of muksas. Right?
I'm just saying, it sounds like it has to fit into one of those categories to be muksa.
It does.
Okay.
It does. To be not muksa. Now, there's a halacha, a Pri Megadim, that says a halacha which is disputed. The Pri Megadim says on Shabbos HaGodol, your matzahs for the Leila Seder could be that they're muksa or not kids. And similarly, your esrig before Sukkot could be muksa machnas kids. Still the Pri Megadim. The Or Sameach is chaylik on this Pri Megadim. And he says something amazing. He says it's food. You can't take the food out of food, right? And therefore, it's not muksa. You can never make your esrog into an object. It's always food.
right. You could use it as a wall.
You could use it to open your door also.
But it is a
It is a food, and you cannot change that. Okay, that's what it is. And this idea, things which they are something, that cannot necessarily be changed. And it can't become muksa l'chsar kiss, because this is a question, if you have a klisha malachta leheter, if it can be muksa l'chsar kiss. It's a different question. But this, he says, it can't be muksa l'chsar kiss because it's a food, it's not a kli. It can't become not only that, just to give a basic understanding, that El Yerabba asked in the beginning of Hilchos Muksa, the halacha is that a piece of paper, an empty piece of paper, is muksa machzor. Because it can't be muksa machzor kids. So because an empty piece of paper is not a kli. Now, in other words, everything has to fit into a box in order to get this thing going. And there are those that say that the reason why Balachayim cannot become not muksa is because they're Bali Chaim. And you can't supersede the fact that they're Bali Chaim, and Bali Chaim are muksa. So even if you're mayak in it for something else, it's still a Bali Chaim. There are others that say that it can't become a kli. And that seems to be the shita of the brocho. Now, I would like to share with you what I just said right now is all things that have to do with concepts which were discussed hundreds of years ago. So nothing, I haven't discussed anything modern. Now, I'm going to jump to the 20th century. So Zalman Auerbach says, and Moshe Feinstein say that if you have a seeing-eye dog, it's not muktzah. Seeing-eye dog. You know, a blind person has a dog. This is why? Because just like a person has a staff to walk on, so your seeing-eye dog is your stick. So now we can understand that in one of two ways. We can understand that you could supersede the Baal Chai because to service a person as a stick is a greater state of existence, or you could make it into that kind of a kli. So different ways, both of them work, and they'll work with both of these ideas of muktzah. Now, that's the conventional psak of Kamat or Paiskim is that pets have absolutely no use. Right? It's their existence that's what the owner likes, right? No, you don't use your dog. It's not like I had a man who he used to live on a ranch in Texas, and I was talking about his dog. I said, your dog and a dog of a person who lives in the city are not the same thing. His dog is, he has a tractor and he has a dog. His dog serves a purpose.
Yes.
On a ranch, a dog it's not a pet.
People have dogs for security.
I understand that. But the question is, I didn't say that the security is good enough reason. I just said that that's not a pet. His dog is not what we would call a pet. A pet is something that's there just for your pleasure and does not have any job, right? It's what many people would like to be. They like to be a pet, right? Just be there for people's pleasure and not have to do anything. But now this is, I just would like to say that there's I did some research on this subject. Many years ago, I saw a piece on the subject about steers in the Moshe or the Moshe Feinstein holds about pets nowadays. And this discussion of pets is a very nogea subject. And it's nogea, even if they're muktzah, you still want to feed them, you take them for a walk. There are ways to do this, even if they're muktzah, But the question is, to pat it, to put them on your lap. I'm not right now getting involved in pet care on Shabbos, which is a fascinating subject unto itself. But most of the poskim are under the opinion that pets are not muktzah. They have the din like a stone. And I'll just give you an example. The thing which is in all of Hilchos Muktzah, the greatest and the simplest chiddush is that money is muktzah. Money is muktzah, and all the poskim say from hundreds of years ago, because money has no use. The most useful thing in the world is money.
Not because of Chisaron case.
No, it says because it's like an ever. Because that money is like an ever, it has no use. Right? Now, even though you use it, but using it doesn't make it into, and by the way, Chati shekel, sorry kids.
Not all kinds there, but the category is.
So why is my Chati shekel not muktzah?
No, it would be. It's in the same category. It should be muktzah for the same reason.
Not sure, it's not some kids not a Chati shekel, I don't think, right? So it shouldn't be, and it depends, and some kids depends on the violence. But the answer is that that's not called a use. That's another case where you see that not all uses are uses that Chazal give them the credit that something can become a kli because of. And this is the shita of most places. I would say someone gave me an article written recently that brings stiras in the Moshe Feinstein's psak on pets. Perhaps he had a change of opinion. perhaps not. I'm not, I'm not, he's not here for me to ask him. And I just know what was written Bishmoy, and he writes clearly that about their Bali Chaim and their Muktzah. Now, this other true which I read the other day, there it says that it's added in by Pendler, and it says that nowadays pets are not Muktzah. So that's, you want to know where that comes from. But there's one true that's speaking about taking an aquarium, and there are some moving an aquarium, and there are some places that say even if pets are muksa, an aquarium is better. Because an aquarium is like a picture. An aquarium is what? Yeah, but it's the whole thing. You understand?
It's a screensaver.
Yeah, whatever. Okay, but this is the subject where it comes into, and there are those who want to say, and I just want to mention to say that because the seeing eye dog is called a usage, that does not in any way indicate whether having a pet is here, even though it's the same item. That's just pointing out that idea. That's all I wanted to get that off the test. I said that I will discuss it, and discuss. We could look at many sort and discuss this issue. Okay. We're up to Tafkuf Yudalit Sif Dalit. Now, there is a halacha over here, which in order to learn Sif Dalit, I think we have to really learn Sif Yud, then Sif Ches, and then we'll learn Sif Dalit. Okay? So I'm not skipping, I'm going in order. Yes, I'm going in order that we should understand it, not the order it was written. Mutter lahasin hapecham sheberosh ner shu kishu deiler. You're allowed to remove that ball on top of the candle. Sometimes you have like a ball of black. You can knock off that ball. But you're not allowed to cut the top of the wick with a kli. Now, when you remove that ball, the flame becomes brighter. Okay? Now, what's the subject? The subject does if you cut it with a kli, so you finished off making a wick, and that's like a makam patish. So they see the Mishnah Berurah, lahasa pechom, hanu mashikvar nisra v'nasa pechom, v'yedei zeh machshich haner, it makes it dark, mutal asiro. U'minesasa v'avachaber mashma afilu b'kli mutal. You're allowed to take it off even the kli because it's just garbage. Okay? Mashasiyam aval edo choytech resh apsila. Sham shiny shahu bigufa psila lu b'chal tikamon. They're talking about where you're cutting already in the material, the fabric of the wick, and that must be. Yeshar de kavanas amachab lahachmer b'say dvarav gavel yipechom the osel atzirei. B'chol zamidin. Avrohom b'nei seder gulon hachmer bein b'nei shel shemer bein b'nei shel salva v'cherev shelo likmod kol ikar. Not to touch it at all. Afilu pechem bein b'yah bein b'kli. You don't touch even the ball on top of the thing. The ein heter el lenapes apechem b'etzboi k'she'enu mechabel b'yadayim. You get some kind of a flick. The ein tzarich lemer shemuter lahates etzbo the rosh hapsil kadei shidalek lofet to move the wick in a way that it lights further down. Okay, so this is the subject. Ches. Ein toichlin hapsil l'shtayim el in ken al yedei she'noseh shtei rosheh b'fi shtei neiros madik b'emtz. You can do that if sakin and writes a lenatic biyad. I'm very halach. If you're going to cut the psil in half, you're tikamana because to make from 1 week to 2 weeks. Shemasakim moisa psila achashtayim. Who adin moisa arucha yeiser ve'enu no'aloi v'choytech limenu kedei lekatzo. Gam can also do gam can b'chal tikamana. Any kind of fixing that you're doing to the wick is a problem, but if you're going to lighting both of them, so we see it as an act of lighting the candle, and therefore it's one. Okay. Now that we saw those two halachas, we can now see the halacha that we're on. Ner shekova v'reitza v'avika bo b'yom. You want your candle burnt out, and you want to relight it. Mutter lach lech rosh hapsila kedei sheyeh noach lidolek. You're allowed to cut off the top of the wick in order that it should be easier to light. The Shiur Shemen Psil will turn afilu beyond the Vachar Shabbos or Shtei Yom Tov Mishal Shorosh. Okay. The Emroitz Lahachem Al Yom Acher Afilu Yom Tov Sheni also. That has to be using it for that day. Otherwise, they have a chana problem. L'achter Kol Shabbos. But Kolay Rab Psila and Esrefes. But the Chosh is that Tikkun Mon B'Masha Meisar Abacheles. Aval L'achter B'Kli Migufa Psila. Mistaber the also Kemosha Sasal Machabel Kamon Simin Yud Sikyud. That you're talking about that you're just cleaning it off. Shiur Shemen Psila. Retzallah Fuku Das Apois Misule Din Kavu Shabbos also the Halik Achakach B'Yontiv. V'Chein Kavu B'Yontiv Rishon also Shoroshana also Ligi Yosheni. From Mashul the Shari. V'Ayin Le'io Mashul Kasadu Shen B'Chafil Tov L'Hachmer Al Kaponim. You're allowed to Asiros Mutzad Hashem. You should at least avoid another machlokes. You should put the psila over and light it from the other side, the side that was never lit. Okay. Sifhei. This is a fascinating halacha.
Maybe so that means the only way you'll be able to cut that wick that has already been used is like with a scissors. No?
You're not allowed to.
You're not allowed to, right? Is that why they said you have to turn it over?
Right, you turn it over, use the other side. Okay. Now this is a fascinating halacha. I'm just going to say over what it says in the in Hilchos Muktzah, the Aruch HaShulchan says that a klisha malachta the heter you're allowed to use it the tzarech heter, but she'ein tzarech klal you're not allowed to use it. So he says, what is the case of ein tzarech klal? Right, if you're using it, so obviously there's a tzarech, right? So the example which is given is that you're at a Shabbat brochos and you're playing with the salt shaker. What are you doing? Nothing, right? That activity is not an activity. Okay, ein tzarech klal means that there's no purpose to what you're doing. Now you're doing it because it's a pastime. So you're getting time to pass, right?
But so it's a cliche heter, but you're using it in a way that's not
right. But it says for tzarech heter you're allowed to. So I'm just using today's subject. Why isn't that called playing with it? All right. Why is that not called tzarech heter?
The question is basically any toy.
The Mechaber says you're not allowed to play with toys. No trouble. They're moksum. Okay. Now it could be that the Ramah says you're allowed to, and how does the Ramah work out these things? That there's a lot written on the subject, but the concept everybody's masking to, and not every thing that you do is called a usage. If the press it says no battery. No. Oh, there you go. Okay, whatever, man. Throw itself out.
2%.
All right. Whatever is there is there. Okay. Anyways, Ner Shabbatot. A person lights a candle for no purpose.
On a fast turn.
Okay. Now, why would a person light a candle for no purpose? What?
Okay. I would say it could be that it's starting to get dark, and you're lighting it prior to the time that you really need it. So
that
when
mutter?
beginning it's
Is
a
that
little
mutter?
sir. Then
That
maybe it will come to it. So
Is that mutter?
I don't know.
You didn't hear his question. I'm lighting it because in an hour I'm going to need it.
Right.
So I'm lighting it now. Now I have time. I do want to do that. Well, I want to tell you something. When it's going to get dark, it's going to be a different day, right?
Right. So
Always. This happens to me.
Yeah. So
Right? So it should be awesome. Okay? For a different reason, but the place can say that it could be when it gets to be before Shkia, it already is dark enough for people's houses that you benefit from having the light out. It's clear from all the halachas in the olden times, people didn't turn on lights 24/7. When there was enough light, you didn't have light. That's all. You just used the sun.
You have a Yom Munan.
The Yom Ha'nunan, you probably have more light. The Gemara says.
They confused it with nighttime, so it would have been too light.
They confused it with after Shkia. Okay. Anyways, Ner Shel Batala, which means it has no purpose. The Hainu Sheino Tzarach Loy, also Lazim Toy. You're not allowed to light. Avol Shel Beis HaKnesses, lights that there are in a shul, Lo Chashuv Batala. Why? Because Kavlut Hashem Ba'urim, the third out of a pasuk, that there should be light in the shul, and light in the shul is a COVID for the basic Knesses. So that's called a purpose, and you're allowed to light it. To have light in the shul. Okay, because, and this is not even time of davening. Time of davening is an extra Indian that there should be lights in the shul. Okay, now the Bir Halacha over here discusses the Yahrzeit Candles. I would like to make a statement, and since I'm here in Eretz Yisrael, I feel comfortable making a statement. I don't think I would ever make a statement in America. In America, people who have Yahrzeit light their Yahrzeit candle on the second day at night. They don't light a 48-hour candle.
Okay.
Is that true?
Yeah.
The light
Here.
Yisker.
When they say Yisker, right? So you light it on Shmini Atzeret. You don't light on Shmini Atzeret, you light on Silvus Torah. Right?
Right.
Here, if there's a 2-day Yom Tov, they light a 48-hour candle. Now, I want to explain, we're going to see the halacha inside, but I'd like to explain just the practicality of what's going on. As far as I know,
It's either Rosh Hashanah or it's a Shabbos Yom Tov. It's only
Rosh Hashanah we don't say yes.
right. So it's going to be a Shabbos Yom Tov, so you don't have a choice about it.
What?
Where's the 2 day Yom Tov? Yes, go.
Simchas Torah. Yeah. Yeah,
No, it's not
right.
good.
I don't
You
hear
can have Shavuos on Sunday. No,
Sure.
you have.
It would be Friday or Sunday.
Yeah, you have in America, you have also Shmini Shel Pesach, could be on Sunday, could be on Shabbos.
it's not in Chul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here,
But here, the only way you have 2 days is if Shabbos is involved. And then you can't light
You
it.
can have Yom Tov after Shabbos. You'll have Yom Tov after Shabbos so far.
For sure.
Sure.
All right. Now, I just want to explain something from my understanding. When you light the candle is not so important. It's important at the time when Yitzchak said there's a candle lit. Okay? In other words, if you light it I don't say reason I can't light it 4 days before. You have a 4-day candle. Okay? Now, it's a disease called saving money. And people feel that if I can light a 24-hour candle, why should I light a 48-hour candle? This is how much is the difference in price between a 24-hour candle and 48-hour? About a shekel 50. Right? We're not talking about major bucks over here. So, my opinion, the proper thing to do in America would be to light your Yahrzeit candle before the first day of Yom Tov.
And the problem with that is that if you think about it, just psychologically, the Yahrzeit candle is usually 1 day, unless of 1 day. So therefore, if you light a 2-day, it's not like a Yahrzeit candle. You're not doing it for the Yahrzeit. You're doing it stop. I mean, of course, you do it because you gotta have a candle there, so that when you light your
No, but you're lighting it for the Yahrzeit.
very unusual. Very unusual. Somebody will light for a 2-day candle for a Yahrzeit. Very unusual.
That's exactly what I'm saying. And there's absolutely no reason why there's any kind of problem doing it. I'll just tell you, I have at home a pamphlet of Hilchos Yahrzeit Candles. All kinds of shabbos. A person forgot to light a Yahrzeit candle on his Yahrzeit. You light one afterwards or not. Machoikis, there's all kinds of, a whole kuntras, 30 pages, but all kinds of shilas on Yahrzeit Candles. All right. But as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't say anywhere when it has to be lit. If you're lighting it for that purpose. I'll just share with you the original poskim say a person who doesn't have two parents only has to light one candle. The minig, the prevailing custom is everybody lights one candle for every person.
Yeah.
All right, but I'm not now. I just would like to read the middle of the Berurah over here.
The Indian is a Yahrzeit candle should be lit on the day when you say Yahrzeit in the Shiur, right?
Right.
So I've been told that you only light a Yahrzeit candle on the actual day of the Yahrzeit. I've never lit on the Yom Tov. Is that different minhag or? No, but I mean, anyway, the light when you say Yahrzeit is not every light's in the Shiur. The Yahrzeit candle is generally lit in the house.
Yeah, those who light the Yahrzeit candle children. Okay, I'm going to read now. The Ner Shal Yahrzeit, Im Lo Hidliku Be'erev Yom Tov, Yizal Keno Al Koponim, B'Cheder Sha'oichel Boi. The Moisef Oira B'Cheder. You should light it in a place where you're going to be benefiting from. The Yahrzeit Tov She'adliku Be'Beis HaKnesses, the Yahrzeit Shal Mitzvah Shal Kol Avoiso, that you do it in the shul, and this way you have this idea, which we said here in the shul of the machaber the shul with candles, and you have a Yahrzeit candle.
Maybe that's the reason why, like over here, they light and they keep the thing lit. Maybe that's the idea. Like over here,
This I have nothing to do with this. This is a American invention, and whether you're Yaitza lighting a candle and you do this, it's a very big machlokes. Peter Rav already spoke about this. Is a Peter Rav was ready to talk about 70 years ago. This was a very hot issue many years ago.
But where do you find nowadays that people will come and light a Yahrzeit candle in the show for their parents? I've never seen it.
I've done it. I do it. And I'll just tell you, it doesn't have to be done in shul, but there are those who say that if you're doing it on Yom Tov, that's that day, then you should do it then. I'll just tell you something. I'm going to tell you a secret. Let's say Shkia is at 6 o'clock. Okay, we'll just do that. And it's your parents' Yahrzeit. And you're lighting your candle on a Tuesday in your house. When do you light the candle?
Like a marathon.
And let's say you daven at 9 o'clock, and it's in the south winter.
I don't know if there's any tmimim for Yahrzeit. You do it a little later.
No, that's at some time.
Well, lighting a candle in the shul now with the electric lights, I don't know that it's most of any or either.
It's in the cover. It doesn't do anything adding light.
What the cover just that candle burning?
Yes, that's just like someone would say that's like the ambience of our halachas near Shabbos, right? What does your halachas near Shabbos do? Nothing, right? What? Yeah. All right.
I wish I would not encourage people to come and light candles here because of the risk and fire risk.
I don't advertise it, but yeah, I've discussed more than once that there should really be two candles by the helmet. Right?
Should be?
There should be, yes. And the reason why I didn't institute it is because I have to make sure that it's always done. I don't have to volunteer for it.
Would you be allowed?
What's Sephardi shuls? Any real shul? I daven in a shul called Chazanish. That's not a Sephardi shul, and they have it.
I've never seen that in the regular Ashkenaz shul.
You never saw an omelet that doesn't have two stanzas on the side of it. You never saw that. Everywhere.
Okay, but not.
No. That is they're having candles. They're just doing it with electric ones. Now, the people who are more authentic, so they do it with real candles. I'm telling you, the shul I daven Chazanish every single day.
It's not gonna. I'm saying Chaz v'Sholom in regard to.
I want to tell you something. I want to tell you something. I have, and I suggest this to many people, you have this box that you use for Hanukkah for those people who light outside. I say you should use it on Sukkot to light your candles in Sukkot. And you can have it in shuls. Many shuls, they have those boxes, right?
You do.
Yeah, but are there no shuls over here, Beit Shemesh, shuls that have candles?
Hanukkah.
Okay. Yeah, probably Leo has also.
I see usually if there's someone who's a Shiur or Yahrzeit, they light the candles. If not.
That's a different thing. That
They have 5
the
candles.
whole year that I was in Oval, I had a candle burning in the shul.
They do 5.
All right, that's ready. Those are Oz Minhagim, but the minhag of a candle burning, these are Minhagim Kavuim that have been around for a very long time.
That's why I have the near Tamid is we use electric for it.
Yeah, all right.
The minhag and the shuls that I went to never stopped to it. Yeah. But if that's the minhag,
I don't know. You know that was the minhag? I don't know. Didn't do it.
they can do it, and they're minhag, no?
No, does someone ask me what do I think the minhag should be and what do I do? That's not the same thing, right?
Right.
Yeah, so I don't think I'm the only rabbi like that. Right? Okay. Very, very important. Halacha ain't nice to now gabi ilo ve'erev Yom Tov. You're not allowed to put a candle on a tree because you're afraid you may end up using the tree again. Okay. Ein parchas in there shacheretz lahainu ba'oil rach kamo beitzim shel yetzel l'mayachosam yad lafs v'eskimot. You can't fashion a cup to use out of clay for a candle because then you're making a flea. Okay, then we have this halacha which is on the fourth, so that's okay. Ein goydlin es hapsila v'lo mahavim loisoi. If you cannot, we call roll your wick, right? For those who live in their own country, you can make wicks for Hanukkah. Right? We all know how to do that, right? Ein goydlin es hapsila v'lo mahavim loisoi. We can't do anything to prepare the wick. You could somehow rub it in your hand to make it harder. You're allowed to put it into oil. As many people do when they make the wick. They put oil on their hands and then they rub it. So this way, the wick gets already saturated with oil, and when you put it into the kli, it works better. Okay.
We'll have to do that or not?
What?
We'll have to do that or not?
Okay.
When Rav Zachariash not putting a candle on the tree, I was expecting to say, don't do that because that's their going. That's what they do for their celebration. So isn't that strong enough reason not to do it? It seems more strong than to climb the tree.
I don't know exactly what you're talking about, but I've been many times in a park where people are making some kind of a party and they hang lights on trees.
Yeah, I mean, they're going about the day of the year when they decorate the tree with
That's they
lights.
decorate the tree with lights. That's not the same thing as having lights on a tree.
Yeah.
Right? If eating a picnic outside and you put a lantern on the tree, right? I've seen that many times. Yeah. So that should not be done. Pirish, Yeshizero Abir Klibiyom. That's what I'll do it. Line Bachar do it in the Osala Hate Klias Absula, or the Hater Ner Shoshaiva Kodua. I feel Machavan Hadlaka. You're not allowed to disassemble a like Abdullah candle to get a single candle out to light it. Because that's you're destroying the fleet. And you don't do anything which is creating or doing something to the fleet. Okay. Okay. Amadik Ner Shal Yom Tov, Tzach Lavor Hashem Yeshalom V'Soy Savitzivano, Lahadik Ner Shal Yom Tov. Now, I just would like to mention a fascinating idea. The Indian of lighting Neiros on Yom Tov and the Indian of lighting Neiros on Shabbos, is that the same thing or is that two different things? Erev Shabbos,
I did say.
The Shabbos is Shalom Bayis. No?
Yeah.
Yom Tov.
We gaan in the day. We gaan in Shabbos. We gaan in Yom Tov. What is voted and what is simple?
All right, I'll just tell you that from the Zalman Auerbach says it the same thing. And the nafkamina is if you can make a shechianu when you light the candle. So the Zalman says you cannot make a shechianu when you light the candles because it's the same mitzvah as every Shabbos. The only time you can make a shechianu when you light the candles is in Makabel Yom Tov. But the mitzvah.
What do you mean? If I'm taking a couple of Yom when I light the candle?
No, my wife is Makabel Yom Tov way before she lights the candle. My wife lights the candle before we eat. Like she eat Makabel Yom Tov way before that. Right? Your wife lights when? Shabbos.
Oh, so it's the regular Yom Tov, the weekday Yom Tov?
Okay.
I mean, it's not Shabbos. It's not Shabbos. Yeah, still lights. There's still the same candle lighting times on the charts. No,
So that's one thing you call it. So we're not going to. Some people like that when the husband comes home from shul. All right.
But why is that? Why not earlier?
There's a few different reasons for this minute. I'll just tell you that this time there's a Magen Avraham from people down a smart that the idea of when do you make when you want to make the brocho when she lights candles? I've never.
Then
before she lights it.
Before.
Not like Shabbos.
Not like that.
Now, my wife, it's a brocho after. Like Shabbos. But this is awesome. And this has to do with the idea of is it the same thing or is it something different? The sma.
Obviously, you have to.
I'm aware of that.
And you have to do it. So why not do it over last year? So like,
Because from the aspect, some say that they were misakin and look at is that you do it afterwards, and there's no difference in Shabbos and Yom Tov. Exactly what we're saying right now. Now, I will just tell you the practical experience that I have as a Rav is that people who do like you say, they end up usually making a mistake sometimes. I've had it a few times that the first Shabbos that came after Yom Tov, they waited before that. But you get used to doing whatever you're doing, right? And I just tell you, most times the people have a problem with Kiddush is the first Kiddush after Yom Tov. People end up going into the Yom Tov Nusach. That's just what happens.